They say football's a gentleman's game played by thugs and rugby's the thugs' game played by gentlemen. Rugby is all about that. It's the constant flow of action. The footwork, the use of the ball, the collisions and the speed of the game. Unlike NFL, it's a consistent thing. You're not working for 30 seconds, you're playing for 80 minutes. Some of the collisions in the game equate to having car accidents. Your body goes to the same stress. You then have a week to turn it around and you've got to play again, and it's just non-stop. I've basically spent my whole life bullying people and people spend their whole life bullying me. People love to hate me anyway, so I'm a bit like Marmite. So I got people abused. It's one of those things, I'm walking out of a side door and, yeah, we hate you, I fucking hate you too. And I'm like, nothing to do with it.
How do you lead a team of 30 alpha males?
Try and be the biggest alpha male out of all of them.
6'4" tall, 220 pounds, built like a brick outhouse, captain of rugby teams, plays for England, Mr. James Haskell. Well, he's not what you think he would be. Yes, he's blonde. Yes, he's posed topless on gay magazines, but there is a lot more going on with this guy than just the usual laddish rugby banter. James is deep. He is the author of 2 books. He's got a YouTube fitness channel. He's doing a lot. He's involved in charities. And you know, with our first rugby player on London Reel, I didn't know what to expect. I had seen a lot of the videos. I had heard a lot of the talk, but James really surprised me because he's a guy that's at the top of his field, that's very successful, that gets things done, and has a great perspective about life, about how to handle things, and also how to handle 25 other alpha males on a sport that is brutal. He came in that day, thought he might have broken his foot, but he performed in this conversation like a champion because he's a professional, and he talked to me about what it's like to play rugby. He's actually really fascinating. At 30 years of age, he's played in France, he's played in Japan, he's played in New Zealand, and he's been around the world, and he learned a lot about his own sport by seeing how it's played in other countries and how they really approach the art that is rugby. And I learned so much being with him, and even perspectives on things you wouldn't have thought about. You know, he's the kind of guy that is around people with a lot of money, and he learned what it's like to have money and also what it's not like to have money. And you know, I'm always surprised when I meet these guests. You know, I get the chance to have conversations with some of the highest achievers in the world. And it's always funny to me how even the media bias, and I'm a part of the media, even biases me. And I see a few videos and I know my conversations are always amazing, but I always make these preconceived notions about people that are never true. These people that come on and sit down with me are always super genuine. They show me the greatest things about being a human. And it's funny how a few things that you see on video or read in the newspaper can make you think a person is a certain way. And James and I laughed about this, and he's like, I do it too. He's like, the things you read about me aren't true, and I still know that, and yet I still believe what I read about other people. And so it was great to kind of sit down and have a laugh about that, but I think there's so much you can learn from James, whether you're a rugby fan or not. And again, I'm always honored and humbled and quite honestly, optimistic about our chances here in this world and with each other when I sit down with a guest, and James was no exception. So you're really going to enjoy this. And if you don't know the game of rugby or understand it, I think you'll have a real appreciation for it, and you'll watch it with new interest and new vigor. You know, a lot of people have been asking me, Brian, what is this London Reel Academy about? Well, it's kind of a secret club, a secret society of the hardest core London Reelers from around the world, and we get together to push each other, to hold each other accountable, and to build better versions of ourselves. And we do that online. We do that through private courses, through our own private social network, through accountability buddies, through coursework, through special courses like the Business Accelerator, through the How to Ace Your TED Talk, and we also do it in person. You can come to the studio live every month. You can meet Winston the Bulldog. You can smell the leather. You can give me a hug. And we think it's how to take your life to the next level, and I love doing it. I'm more passionate about that than even I am of doing the show sometimes. So I made a quick video about it. Check it out.
The entrepreneurial journey, it can be a lonely road. I push myself in so many areas, but you know, you can't do it all yourself.
The thing about the academy is, it's like, look, you have the ideas, you have the ability, you have the skill, and you have the sort of ambition for yourself. But when you have a group of people pulling you forward, it's so important.
Accountability is what's missing from most of the programs or any gurus or any internet mentor that I had before.
I wanted to get some accountability. I wanted to make myself accountable to a group, to you.
The reason we started the Academy is because I felt like we were doing these amazing talks, like we'd have a Peter Sage episode or a Dan Pena episode or a Kala or someone, and you get super inspired, and then YouTube stops, and then you go back to your life and you don't make any changes. And it was just like, it felt like, what are we doing? If you're designing your life right, the good times are now. And in a few years, you'll look back and say, wow, that was amazing.
The thing about the academy is it has so many different sort of layers to it. I think your web seminars are awesome. The way you broke it down and the style of your teaching is pretty awesome.
I like the feed. When I have to motivate myself, I kind of look at others struggling and getting over those struggles. So I actually follow daily the feed.
Best feature would be the sort of Facebook aspect of it, the social media aspect of it, as in creating a profile with your goals, your dreams.
Everyone's on the same vibe, and we may be at different stages in our journeys, but everyone's on the same page at the end of the day. Everyone's really trying to push themselves and building the best you. It really resonates with me.
And the fact that I'm committing a small amount of money and the fact that I'm actually trying to interact with those people means that I'm invested and means that I will keep it for the long run.
You have to be serious about yourself and what you want to achieve. And if you're serious about yourself, this is going to be such a fantastic platform.
London Real, sponsored by Bulletproof. This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is James Haskell, who plays professional rugby for England and captains the London Wasps. You made your international debut at 21 years old in the 2007 Six Nations Championship and will play again in that tournament in March. You've developed your own fitness brand and product line. You're a brand ambassador for Musto and Land Rover, and you support the charities Barnardo's and Help for Heroes. You've written several books on rugby, including An Introduction to Becoming and Remaining Rugby Fit and the Lean Gains Bodybuilding Program. When you're not playing rugby, you can be found shooting, boxing, rolling jiu-jitsu, DJing, doing yoga, and losing your temper online. James, welcome to London Real.
Thank you for having me.
We've already pretty much had a conversation before this started, and we're going to get back to guns, movies, and watches.
Dan Bilzerian.
Dan Bilzerian at some point. But, you know, I'm from America.
I never guessed.
Yeah, I know, right? Go figure. But I mean, I'm a Brit now. I'm a dual passport holder. But, you know, you play rugby for a living. A lot of our audience is from North America. Funny enough, my earliest recollection was rugby, was I went to school at MIT, and some of my fraternity brothers played rugby. And I remember them going to play and going to Japan to play and drinking beer and talking about rugby. but otherwise I didn't know about it till I got here. And I was wondering if you could tell, for someone who doesn't watch it regularly, maybe they've seen it a few times here and there, why are you passionate about rugby? For people that don't know, why is it a sport that's worth watching?
Firstly, can I say, I've never met anyone who went to MIT. Shouldn't you be like in the CIA or like working out, like deciphering like some sort of codes or?
I should be.
They should be.
The CIA actually recruited at MIT, and they were like had a small desk at the career fair, but I didn't go there. But yeah, I should be a .com startup, or I should be, a quant in Wall Street. But this is more fun.
But now you're a YouTube sensation, so it's okay.
There you go, like you.
But anyway, so back to rugby. I'm passionate about it because I don't think I was as good at anything else. No, I'm joking. I went through school. I never wanted to be a rugby player. That was never my ambition. I was very late to watching rugby and getting involved in it. I kind of played from a very young age, from about 5 years old. My dad took me down to my local rugby club. I think he discovered that you could drink on a Sunday at a rugby club, and my mum wanted peace and quiet, so she sent me down, lied about my age. I was playing in the under-7s when I was about 5 years old. I was always quite a big kid. And I played all the way from 5 till 30, which I am now. And for a big part of it was just fun. Didn't really understand what was going on. I was always a very active kid, always outside playing, lighting fires, obviously not burning houses down, but lighting fires in the country, that kind of stuff, like running around, playing army, doing all that kind of stuff. So I wasn't really aware about sport and that kind of thing. And then my dad started to support Wasps when we were about 12. He started taking my brother down. I got obviously a bit jealous, wanted to get involved. Took us down there, and like everything the Haskells do, we sort of went 100%. We had all the hats, the scarves, went every single week religiously. So I was at boarding school, but every weekend I would come out and we'd go and support Wasps.
Okay, and it's the London Wasps. It's actually based in Coventry, right?
Yeah, so what's happened is, originally when I first started it was London Wasps. They've now dropped the London and kept it on as Wasps because we've moved down to Coventry. So we play in the Ricoh Arena in Coventry, and we train still in Acton in London. We're actually all moving as of July up to Coventry. But at that time, I kind of got obviously was supporting them, and the school I went to was very passionate about rugby. And when I went there, it was a whole eye-opener. Boys were taking it so much more seriously. They were actually supporting teams. They were wearing the strips, they were wearing international strips, whereas the only kind of familiarity I'd had with rugby was sitting with my dad watching England-Australia 1991, on the World Cup on the TV, and that was my first memory of watching rugby. I'd never been to an international, but because I started supporting Wasps, I got more and more into it. Then I took my rugby more seriously, and then kind of the Wasps and my life kind of merged in terms of I got to do some sessions with the team. I got to meet the players because, unlike most sports, rugby still has the public still have access to players. After a game, you still meet players in the bar. You still get opportunities to have autographs. Whereas in football, I'm talking about soccer and I assume in the NFL, you don't really get the access to players unless it's special sponsors evening. So that was brilliant. I got to meet my heroes, and I basically just got to a point where I was applying for university. I always did my grades. I've done such a diversity of things, and I was very passionate about all of them. But as I said, I didn't want to be a rugby player. Got offered a contract. Sat down with my parents, they said, look, give it a try. You never know what's going to happen. And 13 years later, I'm still doing it, really.
Were you a good student?
I was. I got an A and 2 Bs, history, politics, English.
Okay.
I represented the chess team. I played one game, one victory. Yeah. Someone said I threatened and I intimidated them, but I don't believe it. I didn't actually beat them because I got some guy in my house at school who was a bit of a chess nerd to teach me like a defence. So I just rolled this defence out and just shut this kid down, and that was my one victory, and I retired unbeaten.
Nice. Very nice. So you could have gone that way to the study side, but rugby was the right call, and you went, you signed the contract, and the rest is history. Not that simple. Yeah.
Well, I mean, so what happened was I wanted to read history at university. I loved it. I wasn't sure. Like a lot of people go to university, but unless they've got a vocation they want to pursue, it's kind of a thing you're kind of showing an employer that you can just study and work and concentrate, so hence you're a good candidate. I didn't know what I wanted to do. To be honest with you, I would rather join the SAS, Special Forces, driven a digger all day, been a Hollywood actor, or as it turned out, played rugby. So I signed for Wasps, and I basically was Wasps for 5 years. They came to renegotiate my contract at the time. It was a bit of a shambles. They took 2 years, and then they came on just the day I was going to accept the sort of terrible offer they'd given me. They then decided to cut it by X amount of money, and I decided, look, I wanted to go and look at what else was there. Fell in love with a team in Paris called Stade Francais. Moved there for 2 years. Wow. Then I went to Japan for 6 months, and then New Zealand for 6 months, and then I came back to Wasps, and I've been back Wasps now for 3 years. This is my 4th year sort of back. So I've been to and fro, but I've been consistently playing rugby for the last 13 years, yeah.
Wow, that's fascinating. I want to hear more about this international piece. But back to the game, if you were trying to show someone for the first time, say American, say from Las Vegas, Arizona, where my people are from, and you sat them down and you're like, this is why this is a beautiful game.
Okay.
What are the kind of things you would tell them to watch for, to look for? Obviously, it's a contact sport, more so than any other sport that's played in England, right?
Yeah.
Much more so. There's not contact in cricket or in football. What should they look for? What does the normal person not see about rugby that you see?
I think the best way to always compare, or explain rugby to Americans is look at NFL. People love NFL because they love running plays. They love when they see running backs running through holes, showing great footwork, agility, and making yards. Rugby is all about that. It's the constant flow of action. And I'm obviously in the UK, soccer is the #1 sport. But I find that rugby holds much more interest because you see big collisions. So in the NFL, you have a play, someone gets tackled and it stops. But in rugby, it's continuous. So someone gets tackled, the ball will play, they'll be tackled again, they'll be tackled again. There's constant big hits. There's guys constantly running, looking after the ball. Obviously, you can't pass forward, so everything's passing backwards. But you would look at the footwork, the use of the ball, the collisions, and the speed of the game, and the natural flair of some of the players as the attractive features. And unlike NFL, it's a consistent thing. You're not working for 30 seconds, you're playing for 80 minutes. And obviously when there's fouls or yellow flags, as it would be in NFL, play stops, but it's pretty continuous.
When we watch it on the big screen at home versus being right there down on the field, I mean, how different is it? Is it hard to imagine how physical it is, or how much kind of the hits add up over that 80-minute time period?
Yeah, I mean, it takes me 3 days to recover from a game. It's pretty much hell. Obviously, a lot of Americans look at rugby and say, oh, you guys are mad, you don't wear padding. I actually think NFL is more dangerous because you've got guys getting hit from multi-angles. So
blind hits.
People leading with the heads. You've got a big issue of concussion over there.
Yeah.
Rugby, you're going to kind of get tackled in this field of view, and if you make a break, you can get tackled from behind. But because you're running that way, there's no one going to run into you that way or that way. You might get a blindside hit where you're looking for the ball and someone might hit you, but it's not as aggressive. I mean, sorry, it is aggressive, but you don't get those unseen collisions. You're not jumping up in the air to catch a ball and someone's taking your legs out from underneath you. But when you're down there, yeah, the collisions are pretty big, and they build up. We wear GPS units in the back of our shirts that cover your distance in the field, but also cover collisions.
G-force.
Yeah, G-force, all that kind of stuff. And some of the collisions in the game equate to having car accidents.
Right.
So by the time you could end up having 5 or 6 car accidents, or your body goes through the same stress, and obviously you then have a week to turn it around, and you've got to play again, and it's just non-stop. Whereas even MMA fighters who obviously have the collisions, they have a 4-month or 3-month build up into a fight, peak once. We have to peak every week and get ourselves back together.
Yeah, that's a different game. And I want to talk about MMA in a bit. They also have to take breaks when they've been knocked out. They can't play or spar for 30 days, 60 days. You guys can't do that. I remember hearing an interview with an NFL quarterback, and his wife was saying that when it comes to game day, he's just quiet. He's just quiet because he's preparing for something really serious, and all the joking goes out the window. And is that the way you kind of get on game day? How do you prepare yourself, or do you do the opposite?
So I've always worked with a sports psychologist. When I was about 18, 19, I was preparing for Wasps. I kind of lacked consistency in how I was going to prepare for a game. So, for example, say you had drama off the field, falling out with your missus, or whatever it might be. You're ill, you're tired. The meal that you thought you were going to eat isn't there. The hotel bed's rubbish. It's raining. It's cold. You might be under the weather. How do you dismiss all of that and then prepare in the same way every time? And I basically worked very hard with her over the years on using music as a tool to do that, making little notes and getting my own game routine. So when I was in Japan, when I was in New Zealand, whereas they'd have mental, rituals before a game, you'd be doing all different things. You wake up in a hotel room on Christmas Day. They don't even celebrate Christmas in Japan. You're eating cold rice and fish. For most players who come from a professional background, that's kind of upsetting. For me, I kind of just water off a duck's back, and I've worked very hard on that. I actually don't focus too much on the game until I get to game day, and even then I'm very laid back. I kind of compartmentalize everything, which drives my girlfriend mad, and I probably got to do it less because I don't really celebrate achievements and victories. I just go, so I've been announced in the England squad, but for me it doesn't matter because I've got a massive game this weekend, and then I haven't made it yet. Until I pull the white shirt on and get on the field, I haven't done it. So there's no point. I don't celebrate it. It's not relevant. Yeah. It's the same thing with game day. My missus always says to me, so how are you feeling about the game? I was like, it's Wednesday. I haven't even thought about the game. I've obviously done the preparation for it, but I'm always about tasks. how do I prepare this week? Have I worked on those core skills? Have I got my music sorted out? What am I doing next? Tick it off. Next day, start again. Next day, start again. And that's the way I do it. So I'm very chilled. Music's a massive part for me. Do the same routine. I don't want to talk to people. Like sometimes if I'm at my folks' place and they've got friends coming over, I'm eating breakfast, they're trying to have a little chat, but I just don't. I want to do my own thing. I just watch TV, relax.
Right, and just stay, no conversations, no this or that. Yeah. And your music, is there certain tracks that you listen to?
Yeah, so when it first started, my journey into music and getting to DJ and all that kind of stuff has come about from, I was a late bloomer to music. You know, a lot of teenagers and people's life are defined by music, seeing bands. Again, I was kind of highlighted my childhood was very much like active, riding bikes, out all day, just playing around. So I didn't really get into music. It was my first girlfriend who sort of got me more into music. And then I was using tracks that are really emotive. So, you know, my original playlist, I think, had a bit like Coldplay and then Walking in Memphis in there and all those kind of things. You power about it, you hear them, you're like, I feel $1 million. So you listen to Walking in Memphis 30 times, it kind of loses its charm, and then you're on to the next song, on to the next song, on to the next song. My whole genre has now turned to house music. So I still, you know, I'm a secret Justin Bieber fan. There's a few things flying around there. I like the classics like anyone else, Rolling Stones, but predominantly my playlist would be all about house music and really good tunes. So when you feel it, you're like, I feel $1 million here. I could run through a wall. That's the whole mentality. But that only lasts for a short period. You know.
You don't want to go too early with that. It's like an hour before the game when you're playing that to get into the song.
But also, I would listen to it actually right until kickoff. So I'd listen to it right until kickoff. But it doesn't emotionally get me. I don't lose control. But the issue with it is that all your favourite songs are on that playlist. So you can't ever listen to them at any other time because they lose their effect. So I'm always having to find other new music to listen to. Right. Otherwise, if you listen to it in the car every day, you might feel amazing, but then when it comes to game time, you're like, fuck, I've listened to this track about 10 times. I don't want to, you know.
No dopamine, right? It doesn't happen.
Exactly.
Talk to me about emotions on the field. You've been caught with some emotional outbursts on the field. How do you use emotions, you know, sounds like for your own benefit. How do you use them against the other team? And this is another part of that I'm sure a lot of people don't think about it. How do you use them for your own teammates? Whether it means to get them on side, to get them to do this, get them to do that, because especially for England, I mean, you guys all come together to play and then you're all separate, right? Yeah. And there's so many different personalities, there's politics. How does that play out?
I mean, obviously, I know what you're mentioning. I got caught during the World Cup in 2011 where I was playing against Argentina and the guy eye gouged me. Basically, I lost my temper, obviously called him an effing C, went mad, just as the ITV who were covering the thing had zoomed in on the ref mic. So obviously I verbally shouted this and they heard it or played it all the TV. Okay. And the issue was
4.8 million people.
Yeah,
right.
Heard me call like effing eye gouging C. So
they probably showed it in slow motion, right?
Yeah, but he was. But the issue was that when I finished the game, it was our first game of the World Cup. So our coach said to us at the time, look, if you say to these blokes that he eye gouged you, you have to go to a hearing. We need you. We don't want you to serve for training. Just say that you overreacted and everything else. So I then took one for the team and basically said to the sighting guy, look, I overreacted. The guy wasn't as bad as they thought. And he goes, well, you shouted it and everyone heard it. And I went, yeah. So I basically mugged myself off when in actual fact, he did eye gouge me and I was perfectly entitled to say it. But all it was lasting memory was everyone on ITV heard me saying you're a effing C. And over here, obviously, like all the gossip column, people were like, should rugby players be allowed to swear? There's a programme called The Right Stuff where the bloke was debating it. To be fair, he was good and said, listen, he's a rugby player, the bloke's ripped his eye out, like he's perfectly entitled to say what he wants to. Emotion on the field now as a captain, it's very important for me to get that balance right. Everyone's spirits are flying high. I try to stay very calm, very clear and concise. However, if you're making the same mistake 3 times and we're under our post 3 times where they've scored, a couple of weeks ago I talked calm, addressed it. Then at the end of the day, I didn't lose my head, but I lost my temper. I was like, lads, I can't do it for you. I can't do it. You either want to tackle or you don't want to tackle. You either want to make. So at the end of the day, I've got nothing to say that's going to make you play better. It's now down to you to do that, and then you hope that kind of the realization dawns upon them and it kind of sparks up. I'm normally quite controlled in the field. There's a couple of times where a guy grabbed my balls once, so I knocked him out. That obviously I got a 5-week ban for that.
With a punch or what?
With a punch, yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Right. Is that a common tactic in
rugby?
No,
unfortunately, unfortunately, no. Well, good thing it's not, but retaliation is not good either because there's cameras everywhere now. It's not like back in the day. You can't get away with anything. Obviously, they haven't gone as far as in NFL where you've got the referee reviews it, a live review, and they talk about it. No, we haven't got that. But there is the ability for we do have something similar to that where there is stop, referee can go to the fourth official, he replays it and then can give you a sanction there and then. So there's no room for it, you can't escape. So I stay pretty calm most of the time.
Is it overall a gentleman's sport? Do most people behave reasonably on that pitch, or is it kind of anything goes?
No, it is reasonable. There's there's a few people who boil over, but you get that in any contact sport. But at the end of the day, everyone is very respectful of the official. No one would ever talk back to the official, or if they do, they're banned or red carded. Each other, you might have words, you might have a bit of push and stuff, but very rarely do people lose their head, and they come down on people very hard. Someone I got stamped on someone the other day, 6-week ban. Someone done for eye gouging, 10-week ban. These are massive chunks of the season out, so there's a big deterrent there. And after the game, everyone shakes hands and moves on. That's the best thing about rugby. You can knock the shit out of each other for 80 minutes, and then you speak. There's none of this nonsense bubbling over and all that kind of stuff.
Talk to me about the culture between rugby and football. I remember I went to Twickenham one time, and I think I just got to England, and I actually had been down to Chelsea for a football match, and I was like, oh my gosh, these guys are passionate, is the right way of saying
passionate,
it.
yeah.
Right? There was like an 8-year-old kid there, and his father was like, go on, you fucking nuts.
Yeah.
And I was just like, wow, And then I went to the rugby match, and before the match, people turned behind each other, and they were like, good luck, and I was just like, wow, this is such a different thing. And I forgot the quote, but there's always what was the quote? Football's a gentleman's game played by...
They say football's a gentleman's game played by thugs, and rugby's the thugs game played by gentlemen, is the saying that they go to. I mean, I couldn't agree more with it. Fans-wise, it's a totally different atmosphere. I think I've been to a fair few football matches in my time. It's very hostile, very aggressive. I mean, I remember watching Chelsea versus Liverpool, and I was lucky enough to be in a box at the time, and I was looking down, and there was a part of the stand at Stamford Bridge, and all the Liverpool supporters were... Chelsea support was there, and 99% of them on that side were facing the Chelsea box, the Liverpool sort of fans and officials swearing at them the whole game, and not watching the game. And they're much more interested in the chants. Now, I love the passion. I think football fans have a lot of passion. I think they make a lot of noise. I think they're fantastically supportive. Rugby fans very polite, often go quiet, which
too quiet sometimes.
I think too quiet. I personally think what's happened in the world of social media and everything else, that we've forgotten that we're there to support the team. And everyone rushes to get on there and do a critique of your game and tell players directly the way they thought you were shit. When your one rule as a fan, and I remember because I was an avid rugby fan, is just cheer till your lungs can't, support the team and push them as hard as you can. By all means, have an opinion. I used to have players that I didn't particularly like, and you might shout something, but never over the top. And I certainly wouldn't tweet the bloke afterwards, you're shit. Whereas now we live in a world where people go off they're much more interested in doing that. And with rugby, because they're polite and there's a lot of corporate people there, the volume goes up at times, but it's especially English kind of thing. It can be quite. They're fantastic fans, and I wouldn't fault them, but sometimes they go a little bit quiet. And I think certainly the last 3 years though with English rugby, that's kind of changed. The fans are now got a lot louder, and it makes a massive difference to the players because say for example Twickenham's a big place, and if there's 80,000 people and they're going quiet, you notice that.
Right. How much is say home field advantage or a good crowd? I mean, can that win a game for you?
I think it does play part and parcel of it. I think people always say to me, did you hear me shouting in the crowd? My girlfriend always asks me, can you hear me cheering? I'm like, I always sometimes pay a bit of lip service to it, but I'm no love. I obviously can't. Some people you can obviously hear when you get to the touch lines. But when you play in something like the Millennium Stadium, Wales, when they close the roof. So I remember I made my debut there, as you said in your intro, and I was 21. We were something like 8-5 behind, not even 8-5, what was it, about 9-5 or something behind Wales, and we were 5 metres from the line, and the roof was closed, and the noise became so loud, it was like literally someone pushing down on you, and it's the first time that I've ever felt a crowd actually made a difference, like it was that intense. It was amazing, but it was like a fishbowl, you were stuck in it, and there was full of 80,000 mad Welsh fans just going mad, and it was incredible, and those are, you want to live and die by those kind of crowds. That's what you want to do. That's why you want to play. And if I think I had to play rugby in front of one man and his dog, I wouldn't do it. I love the game, but I don't love it that much. I don't like getting beaten up for no sort of razzmatazz. That's why I love American sport.
You like the performance aspect.
I love the performance aspect.
Right, and that really, to know you're being watched gives you that extra juice.
Oh, 100%. That's why I love about it in American college. 100,000, 60,000 people coming to watch. Yeah. That's like a dream. They're like showstoppers and showmen. We go through hell, our bodies through hell. We put ourselves through, we get paid well, but not in comparison to what footballers paid and everything else. And when we finish, we have to find another job. Plus the fact we've beaten to crap, we're all limping around. We've got obviously, I don't know what I'm going to be like when I'm 45, 50, but I don't imagine I'll be the spring chicken that I'm not even a spring chicken anymore, but that I was. So
does it frustrate you that rugby players aren't paid more, that it's not more commercially viable compared to all the football stuff that you see?
Listen, I wish rugby was the number one sport. I think in terms of interest, I mean, obviously I'm biased. I think everything we offer in terms of accessibility, enjoyment for the fans, clean environment, good moral code, enjoyment, action, personality-wise, just ability for rugby players to articulate themselves and put. I mean, some obviously don't, but the majority of people can do a bit of a different cut. We don't just come out with things like it's a game of two halves and the gaffer said this and the gaffer said that, kind of you see on with football. But the reason football players are paid what they are is because number one sport, their skill level is incredible. Like when you see Premiership players at their best, there's such a big disparity between them and even like the division below. And then you see the likes of Messi, Ronaldo, Rooney, all those kind of people, and no one can do what they can do. And then you understand. But I would like to see rugby players paid more because, to give up potentially 15, 16 years of your life to a job and then wake up one day and go, look, you've saved a bit, but you're going to have to go find another job for the rest of your life and you might have, injuries and stuff like that. I would like to see it more commercially, but unfortunately it's just isn't the case.
Right, but it's evolved a lot more than say 20 or 30 years ago when no one was getting paid.
Yes.
And it's fascinating because you kind of look at like the similarities of MMA. Like 20 years ago in MMA, it was wrestlers who couldn't get a job that were fighting MMA. Now you got guys like Conor McGregor that are making millions, and you can see, the athlete's bred. Now you guys that specialize in MMA, they train in MMA. Do you think 20 years down the line, if there's a lot more money in rugby, that you're going to see another evolution, like an awareness of a Messi out there?
Yeah, I think you've got your star players like that. There are a number of guys who are head and shoulders above the rest in terms of their skill set. I think that rugby's going to be an interesting transition period because of, that's what I talk about in one of my introduction to rugby fitness book is that we're kind of on a point where players are getting bigger, games getting more physical. It's going to have to plateau at some point. I am, but there's bigger boys coming out the whole time, and I think the thing is that some of the best rugby players in the world aren't the biggest, and there's become this fascination with size. And at the end of the day, I think we're going to have to plateau and then start changing it where speed, footwork, and power is versus the size. And this is what I try and say in this book. Young kids are obsessed with trying to get massive because they think that's the answer to being a good rugby player. When you look around the world, some of the best rugby players in the world aren't the biggest at all. And I think that rugby will transition and change, but I think the more money that comes into rugby, the better the sport science will get. Because like with the NFL, when you're paying a guy 100 million over 5 years, the people that look after him and the support staff are going to be of a higher level because you're not going to have a commodity like that and then, like a racehorse and let some bloke who doesn't know what he's doing manage it. So I think as rugby players and the game builds, everything around the game will become the science, and the fact that clubs will then have a player on the field worth X amount of money, you can't afford for him to break down. They'll start looking after him, they'll look at the recovery, they'll look at the health and fitness, they'll look at the conditioning. And I think that evolution is happening now, but it takes a lot of time because there isn't the investment. With NFL, you've got so much money. You've got owners with billionaires going, well, this bloke needs this, we'll build it. We need an underwater treadmill because he's going to rehab, but he's our star quarterback, let's fix him. Whereas you're running out of players, we're kind of like much for muchness. If we break down, they'll just throw me on a skip and get someone else.
Right, put some ice on it. Talking about rugby culture, there's the banter, there's the lads, there's the going out, there's traditionally drinking, maybe not these days, I don't know. Where does that culture come from? And if people don't know about it, how do you explain it? And is it changing?
It's always a difficult thing for me because rugby is synonymous with drinking, partying, weird male rituals, bonding, a lot of nakedness, and that kind of association. The thing for me is that since I've been a professional rugby player, obviously I've seen things in part, but most of the time that's not our culture at all. That's nothing to do with what we're about. We play every single week. Yes, we might have a team social where boys might have an all-dayer, so but that's once in a blue moon.
All-dayer is when you drink all day.
Yeah, so essentially you meet at a pub at 12 o'clock. But this is once in a blue moon kind of scenario. It's an end of a season where you've played for since July to May. You deserve kind of a blowout with the boys. Maybe it's a fancy dress thing. That's fine. Okay. Where this culture still maintains is university rugby and club rugby. So we kind of get tarred with the same brush as the traditions they do. So every university's got a rugby team and they're doing weird rituals and shit, like weird initiations, weird stuff.
Okay, like American fraternities, kind of.
Exactly like American fraternities.
Okay.
We don't have anything like that. Some clubs have some rituals, like one club, I won't mention them, they have a thing where you either have to drink a gallon of milk in, I want to say an hour, gallon of milk in an hour, otherwise you get your head shaved. But if you fail, if you spew within the hour of drinking a gallon of milk, you still get your head shaved.
You guys,
I think my best mate managed to complete it. We didn't do that at Wasps. We had to sing. I mean, with England, you have to sing a song on the bus. It used to be back in the day, you'd have to have a drink with every member of the team. So I would come up to you and I'd go, congratulations on your cap, hand you a glass of wine, have a glass of wine, cheers, neck it, on to the next one. Obviously, 23 players, 22 players, you would be pretty sideways if you weren't doing a tactical chunder, every now and then. That's kind of diminished in itself. So professional rugby is now, a lot of those traditions have kind of gone out the window. I think probably for the betterment of the game, because the demands on you are so much. But university rugby, club rugby, they're still doing that all the time. They're still, well, within reason. It's kind of still part of it. So it's basically, if you want to akin to anything, it is American fraternities, shaving heads, dressing up, fancy dress, drinking beer through some bloke's sock and.
But it doesn't really happen on a professional level, is what you're saying.
Not really, not to the extent. We have the banter, like that, and the banter's become such a cliche word now. Like I use it all the time, but it's kind of like everyone just uses an excuse. You sort of be rude to someone, you're like, oh, it's just banter, mate. You're like,
was banter bullying, misogyny?
It's basically bullying. Like basically, so I've basically spent my whole life bullying people spend their whole life bullying me. It's the way to look at it in terms
vicious circle.
It is a vicious circle, but I love it. When you get 30 guys in a constant environment, and any sort of slip up, any mistake, so a bad haircut, bad shoes, a mistake with a girl, anything you do, you're made to pay. And the fact you've got 30 minds working on it, some of the nicknames, the genius things that people come up with, I laugh my arse off. I laugh more doing what I do than anyone else I've ever met, and that's the best part of it. People say, I did a game show thing the other day, and they were asking, how many times does the average person laugh? And it was something like 3 times a day. I must laugh about 40 times a day, like no joke. Just because any sort of mistake, you're done. Like any sort of chat, like boys are stitching each other up. Now there's like, we've all got WhatsApp groups, and we've all got, there's these photo face swapping stuff. So as soon as you do something, face swapping you onto someone else, it's just genius non-stop. So that's why I love it so much.
Is that part of what makes a good team? Is that why? I mean, it's a symptom of something. It didn't happen for rugby and not for football. Is it part of because you guys sweat and bleed and go through so much on the field that's a natural?
You've hit the nail on the head. You've got to have that tension, and expression's got to come out somewhere. If you're living in each other's pockets every day, you've got to have that camaraderie. You've got to have that ability to share banter. You've got to have that ability to laugh at each other. No one's bigger than the game. Everyone needs to be able to take a joke, and it's very apparent quite quickly people who can't take the heat. And you kind of think less of them. You need to be able to laugh at yourself. And I'm the first one I bite on it. People say biting, it's like they always put that emoji of a fish on the end of a hook. Someone comes at me, I'll always come back at you. And I do it on Twitter to people. I've stopped less now because I've got to have more responsible demeanour. But like some bloke came at me the other day, I put a mix up and someone wrote to me, it sounds like a nail being hammered into a wall. And I said, listen, this bloke was like an old rugby player, and I said, listen, you're old, mate, like stick to Classic FM, this is for young people. And this other bloke came back, right, and wrote, it sounds like concrete being drilled. And I looked at his profile, and he had terrible teeth. So I wrote, no, mate, it's the sound of your dentist working on them hanging teeth of yours. Obviously shut him down straight away. He deletes his tweet. Like I feel bad, but I can't resist it. If you come to the party and you want to play, let's play. But I tried to rein it in a little bit,
How do you lead a team of 30 alpha males?
Try and be the biggest alpha male out of all of them, I think is the answer. I think there's different ways of doing it. I was very lucky when I came through with Wasps. I had Lawrence Dedalia, who was like proper the alpha male kind of character, big jaw, big thing, kind of. It was weird enough because he came from a very, sort of well-to-do family. Went to a nice public school, but he talked like an East End gangster. I think he thought he was Lenny McLean. So. That was kind of quite funny. So, but what the good thing about him is that he spoke very well. He always led by example, and when he spoke, you believed in exactly what he said, and that was the best way. And that's the best way I've learned to try to be a captain. Is the Churchillian speeches are kind of nice, but at the end of the day, it's how you play on the field. It's the example you set to the boys, and it's constantly being switched on and demanding high standards. And that's the best thing about being a captain that I've found. It's made my standards raise the whole time. So before, 22 weeks of a season or however long it is, you kind of sometimes come in and feel a bit tired, but as a captain, you can't do that. I mean, I still slip up like some people, you know, I still forget that people are listening to what I'm saying. So if I mug someone off or give them a bit of banter and everything else like that, I realise that all the other lads are listening to that and then would want to, you know, so I have to be careful who I take down. And if you complain about the system, you know, then it's detrimental to everyone because everyone complains about the system. You kind of got to pick your times and pick your battles. But, you know, I'm only human, so I'm still learning.
What happened last year at the World Cup? I'm new to this whole sport, so tell me.
It was a very difficult period of time, but because English rugby is actually in a very good place and there's lots of great talent. I think a lot of people have come out subsequently since the World Cup happened and belittled everyone, and obviously the coaches have been removed and everyone's sort of gone a bit mad. What everyone forgot or has taken regard to how hard the guys worked to perform, and the performances didn't come. We'll all put our hand up and said that, but the work that went into it, the attention to detail, the intensity. I think, you know, there were issues over selection. I think possibly trying to find a game plan that suited the players that we were playing, and also focusing on winning now as opposed to winning later. It was always about legacy and developing, but actually all anyone cares about is results now. And, you know, the clearer minds and the better thinkers think about longevity, but media, fans, people want short-term winning. And we just didn't get things right. And unfortunately, the way the media is as a country, they're cutthroat, they build you up. And also the one thing that kind of upset me is that we were a good side. We had some very good victories. We finished second in the Six Nations a couple of times, narrowly missed out. We'd beaten some hemisphere sides, not consistently. So when we came to World Cup, suddenly everyone lost their shit and was like, we're going to win the World Cup. And I don't understand why they made that leap of faith. As players, we believed we were going to win the World Cup. Coaching believed. We all thought we had a chance of doing it. However, when we didn't, it was like everyone had forgotten that we were probably still a little way off winning it, or if we had won it, because a tournament like a World Cup is down to the bounce of the ball, it's down to opportunities, it's down to things almost outside of your control a little bit. And if you got the bounce of the ball, we could have gone on and done it. If we'd beaten Wales and we got that, you know, we played well, we would have got there. But everyone just lost their shit and was like, "You're going to win the World Cup." We're like, hold on a minute, we weren't, you know, New Zealand were going to win the World Cup. It was they had the best pedigree going into the World Cup. You know, we hadn't consistently beaten these teams. And if you want to go into a World Cup, you've got to consistently be at the top. And we lack the consistency. So there's been a bit of a rebirth. We've got obviously a new coach and new opportunities. And it's sad because the coaching staff put so much time and effort into it. And they were good men. But that's all people care about is results. And the players, some players have been sacrificed. I'm luckily, you know, clinging on by my fingertips. But
is it hard after that happens, like social media and people talking to you? Are you the kind of person that can kind of get over it? Or is it a week of just like, does it just suck?
I think some players obviously got it worse than others. I didn't feature a lot in the World Cup. I mean, people love to hate me anyway, so I'm a bit like Marmite. So I got people abused. It's one of those things, you know, I'm walking out of a side door and, yeah, we hate you. I fucking hate you too. And I'm like, nothing to do with it, you know. So that was it's kind of hard, but again, compartmentalise it, you know. I think social media is great because it has so many benefits of giving fans access to players, but the internet's given a voice to a lot of people who don't deserve it, and it takes me 2 seconds to look at someone's profile and know whether I should value their opinion or not, and 9 times out of 10, I probably wouldn't save them from a burning house, you know.
Why do people love you or hate you?
I don't know. I think from a young age, I think I've always enjoyed doing media stuff, because my view is that you've got one career, one opportunity at life. You never know when it's going to stop. I was there when a friend of mine, a guy called Matt Hampson, broke his neck. I was there at under 20s. He broke his neck. He's never walked again. He's achieved amazing things with his life. He's created a charity, a foundation. He's done some incredible things, but he's never walked again. And that for me was like a real warning that at any moment you play a sport like we used to play, anything can change, and that I wanted to make the most of it. So when someone said to me, let's do a TV thing or build a website or do whatever, I took those opportunities, because any moment you could finish, and you want to make sure that you're prepared for when you finish playing, and you get one chance at life. And I could have been super humble. I could have played it real quiet. It's just not me. People confuse being outgoing and being extrovert and having a laugh and appearing on the front cover of a gay magazine and putting naked selfies, whatever it might be, as you really rating yourself. No, it's never the point. I never taught my game playing up. I've never done anything else like that. But people can't differentiate between the two. They see you on a red carpet doing something, and then they think, oh, he must think he's the best player in the world and he should be at home focusing on rugby. Or the favourite thing they say to me is, you should get out of the gym. But I don't spend any time in the gym. I spend all my time working on the core skills of the game. One bad game, like, your handling skills are terrible. You should be doing this. You should be doing that. It's like, you have no idea. And it just rattles you. And then you realise that these people have no idea what they're talking about. They talk shit. And social media is a necessary evil for business and for everything else like that. But ordinarily I wouldn't, because you wouldn't listen to someone in the street if they did that, because you know they're mugs, but because it's written on social media, you kind of get a bit rattled, you know?
Talk to me about the gay magazine cover shoot. Would seemingly to be contradictory to the rugby culture. Tell me why it's not.
I just think that for me, sexuality plays no role in what a person's like, what they do, how they are. I couldn't give a shit. It doesn't bother me at all. I think in a team environment, the idea of someone struggling not to be themselves and not to be able to come out and be clear, that's terrible. I think when I've had problems myself, and I haven't been able to talk to someone about it, or I've been having this weight in the back of my mind, that's hard enough. Imagine being concerned that your teammates are going to shun you or something's going to happen. People are, especially in rugby, very understanding. I got asked to do Attitude magazine and I got asked to do the Gay Times magazine. I wanted to show people that I don't care and everything else. And like, for me, like everyone, I fall into the trap sometimes of using, oh, that's gay or this is gay, because it's like a cultural thing, and that's got to stop, because you've got to stop associating, because it's not a negative thing. And I'm not white than white. And I think sometimes when I've done these articles, I've made it really clear to people that I'm 100% supportive of gay people. I don't care. I'm not interested. I would never volunteer to someone, I'm straight or I like girls. It doesn't matter to me. As long as you're a good lad, you work hard and you're achieving stuff, that's all I'm interested in.
To watch the rest of this fascinating interview, click on the link below and go to londonrealacademy.com. There you can sign in with your social media login and watch the rest of the episode for free, along with all of our episodes on London Real, my webinars, and all of our premium content, all located over at londonrealacademy.com. So click on the link below, you'll be directed there, and you can watch the rest of this fascinating interview, and I'll see you there.
I've never said it to someone as a thing, so that's my one thing.